Coming to Canada is the best decision that I made in terms of my career and education, because it really opened a lot of doors for me personally in terms of industrial experience and finding inspiration and finding kind of purpose in life in general. And what I want to achieve from this video is kind of give you 5 reasons as to why you should consider coming to Canada. I also kind of hope that you would consider these into your final uni decision, because I think Canada is something that everyone should consider at some point in time as a university location. I want to start with reason number 1 as to why you should consider Canada. And the reason is that Canada is a host of a large number of institutions with world-class education. Most degrees that are hosted in Canada are recognized globally very much. They are basically equivalent to like degrees in the US. And I'm not trying to say that it beats at the top 10 institutions in the US or things of that nature, but they hold basically the same value, and you have the correct tools and the correct kind of competencies to kind of go on and do anything that people in high-end institutions even in the US kind of do. And the reason why that makes a lot of sense and is factual is that Canada has produced a few of the best academics in the history of the academic spectrum, right? I'm going to take my field as an example. Yoshua Bengio, who is known as one of the godfathers of AI, is a student of McGill University, and he's currently teaching in the University of Montreal. Both those universities are situated here in Montreal, which is kind of turning into a hub of AI academics and people in industry who work for AI too. I think that's a very strong case as to why academics in Canada is very much at a very high level and should be valued and should be considered across any application pool, basically. The second kind of addition to why I personally think that it's like world-class education is because it's an education system which has a good mix of like the one in the US and the one in the UK. Because just like in the US, you have the flexibility to kind of like explore the fields that you want, but just like the UK, you can kind of fixate on a specific field if you know that that's what you kind of like to do. For example, I have one friend who's very set on like doing on a CS course. So from the first semester itself, he's just doing CS courses back to back. He's taking like a full course load of CS, and he's just aware of like exactly what he wants to do. But I also have another friend who's basically changing his major like every week. He's in the arts, so he kind of takes any major within like the faculty of arts, and he has the flexibility to do that. And neither of them are bound by something like the core curriculum in the US, where you have to take like a certain bunch of courses regardless of what you do. Like for example, like I don't want to take something like a history class and at least be tested on something like a history class. I do understand that like it's an important subject and it does broaden your mind and things of that nature, but I don't want to be tested on something like that, and I'd rather do that in my free time. I don't know how feasible that is, but I truly think that the Canadian system of letting you focus on something that you're truly interested in and at least like pushing you to figure out what you're kind of interested in is a very interesting way of going about things, and I truly appreciate that they kind of go about it that way, because it did benefit me and it has benefited kind of a lot of people around me too. So moving on to reason number 2, Canada has a large amount of options for financing and financial aid. That'll include like the merit-based scholarships that are presented by Canadian universities, and also the need-based scholarships that are presented by Canadian universities. I am personally on a need-based scholarship every single year, and they give me a very, very feasible and a very justified kind of amount to support me with my education, and they've committed to that throughout my university degree. I've seen a lot of people kind of like experience these benefits. I've seen people get off like 50% to 60% of their degree off basically through like need-based scholarships. So like these universities are truly commit to like students and at least like listen to their concerns with regards to like financing, because they understand the struggle that students have. Other financing options that you have with coming to Canada is you get to work as a co-op student. That's basically what I did after my first year, where I worked 8 months and I had work experience related to my field. I worked as a software developer right after my first year. And a lot of people do this too, where like they mix work with education so that financing doesn't become too difficult. So in my case, I worked for like 8 months straight, and I didn't have to rely on like my family at all for like money, and my comfort of living kind of increased exponentially, and I didn't actually have to even work part-time on campus afterwards, because that gave me like a decent buffer of money to kind of like survive with. There are also options of, you know, working 20 hours part-time, obviously, that when you're in school, but if you're working on campus, you can basically work an unlimited amount of time. So that's pretty cool as an option too. The other thing is, if you're in when you're in summer or on holiday, or if you get a co-op work permit in the middle of your degree, you can basically work full-time and get financial help, or just like, you know, get a certain decent income across those few months too. The other thing is obviously student loans, but I feel like that's a last resort, and I think universities kind of like try their best to give you more options to kind of like help yourself across that period. With Canadian universities is that a lot of universities give students exemptions, and they're very, at least in my case with McGill, I got an year's worth of credits exempted from like my degree. And that is absolutely amazing, because I basically saved like $40,000 right away. That's like someone giving me like a $40,000 scholarship, literally, because if you have 120 credits and you get 30 cut off, that's literally you getting a year cut off, and like, you know, you don't have to worry about it. And the advantage to that is also that you can take a less of a course load per semester, and that means you have more time to kind of do things like volunteering, projects, extracurricular activities and things of that nature, and that increases your portfolio. Because at the end of the day, all you have to do is get into a university and just make sure that you do any form of a standardized exam. You literally just have to write that exam, and regardless of what your results are, once you get into the university, as long as you have enough results to get into that university, you get like a certain decent amount of credits kind of cut off. And that's absolutely as to why Canada is an ideal location for higher education is the opportunity that it presents to international students. The first thing underneath that is permanent residence. Obviously, there are a lot of international students who are always confused about whether they'll be allowed to kind of stay in a country after, you know, committing to that country for about 3 to 4 years. And in Canada, honestly, it's not really a problem. Immigration is promoted over here. Immigration is actually celebrated here. Diversity is celebrated over here. And the other set of opportunities is just in terms of your career, especially in the tech space, the finance space, or whatever space you're interested in. There's a lot of scope in this country. You're going to have a really good time, and especially if you're into tech, North America is basically the best place to come to. There is no debating that North America is the best place for the tech circuit. It is where the greatest tech minds live. It is where the greatest tech minds reside, and you'll be matching and learning and growing and competing with the best of the best of the best of each field. And they are right here in North America, and Canada obviously belongs to North America, so you definitely have so much to gain on that. Reason as to why you should consider coming to Canada is because it opens up an entire continent, right? And that's obviously the North American continent. And what I mean by that is traveling to the US after coming to Canada is not going to be a big deal. And that also means that you're going to be able to go to conferences, hackathons, networking events, and even if the regulations change, obviously, because US is kind of being weird with, you know, regulations right now. If the regulations change, you can also apply to internships in the US and gain experience over there. So to me, like, I have this security of staying in Canada after graduation, which is not really presented in the US, because you need like a H1B1 visa, you need like a company that sponsors it, etc, etc, etc. And you don't need any of that in Canada. It's very much promoted to kind of stay here and contribute to the economy in Canada. And I also get to travel to the US, which is, you know, where the NBA is, where, you know, so many of these opportunities are. And, you know, I get to grow as a person. I get to travel around the world, meet new people, and I also get to grow as a professional because I get to experience opportunities across the entire continent. And like I said, this is the continent for tech. This is the continent for many progressive industries, and you know, I literally not have it any other way. So I get the best of both worlds when I'm in Canada, and I absolutely love that. And I think this is something that you should consider too. It's not something that many people pay attention to, but I think it's an absolutely wonderful thing, and you should really exploit this opportunity for sure. I shall move on to the last reason as to why you should come to Canada, and that's the student life that you're going to experience in Canada. You have a lot of things to do, regardless of what sport you do, regardless of, you know, what experiences you like. There is something for everyone over here. If you take, like, you know, the 3 major cities, so Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, they've ranked in the top 10 best student cities in the world before. They're consistently ranked in the top 20 for sure. So there is evidence as to why, you know, Canada presents a really good student life. There is, like I said before, there's something for everyone over here. And regardless of whether you want to travel, regardless of whether you like nightlife, whether you like, you know, experiencing sports and things of that nature, you have a lot to do over here as a student. Before anyone brings up the weather, what I want to say is that once you come over here, you truly do get used to winter. I was wearing, you know, I was literally shivering back in Sri Lanka when I was, you know, at something like 16 degrees Celsius, but right now I go at minus 35 and I'm totally fine, because my kind of like entire organ system has like adapted to this entire new thing. And honestly, when you get exposed to different weather conditions, you also see that it presents different opportunities for new experience. When you're in winter, you get to do things like skiing, snowboarding and things of that nature, which you don't get to do in summer. And when you have those two worlds too, it's really fun, because like part of the year you get to, you know, do things that, you know, that require the sun. Part of the year you get to do things that are like right in snow. And I think that's a very great experience for any student over here, and like that's a lot to really look forward to. And I will share more experiences, like more student experiences later on, but I think these 5 things should sway you to kind of like consider Canada strongly if you haven't considered it before. I truly think it's a very magical place to come to, and you know, I just do not want anyone to miss out. But I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was informative. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you.